Hell meets ice. The stars here didn't twinkle. They hung, motionless and cold, suspended above the artificial atmosphere of Station Helix 9, like eyes that had seen too much and refused to blink. Ambassador Jilka of the Glintari Confederacy adjusted the environmental regulator around her thorax, the gel pack inside hissing softly. She was nervous. Her kind always were, but this time the fear felt justified. She watched from the upper gallery as the first of them arrived. The Valkyrian ship docked in silence. No fanfare, no light, just the sudden hiss of pressure equalizing as the airlock slid open and Ambassador Kriktich emerged. All spines and chitin, its outer shell still glistening from the acid mist of its homeworld. 2 Glintari aides fainted outright at the sight of it. Jilka could hardly blame them. Behind it came the Gravner, mountainous, hulking brutes from a high-gravity world where even sunlight fought to survive. Their ambassador, a creature named Urag, stepped with ponderous dignity, each footfall reverberating through the station's floor plating. It wore ceremonial chains made of compressed star matter. Pure intimidation. Then, as if the universe itself had cued a cosmic joke, the doors slid open a third time, and the human walked in. He was unarmored, unaccompanied, unbothered. No glistening toxin-dripping hide, no looming mass of stone. Just a man in a simple uniform, sleeves rolled up, carrying a steel thermos. He took a sip and looked around like someone had invited him to a casual meeting. A raised eyebrow was the most aggressive posture he displayed. "Captain Elias Reyes," he said with a lazy half-wave. "Representative of the Terran Accord. Hope the coffee machine works on this tin can." Jilka felt her spines rise involuntarily. The others turned, and, for a moment, the entire chamber went silent. The Valkyrian ambassador's mandibles clacked. "Is that it?" "Yes," said Jilka quietly. "That is the human." Urag let out a low, rumbling snort. Fragile-looking. He survived 4 confirmed assassination attempts and once detonated a plasma grenade inside his own shuttle to escape a capture net, Jilka murmured, without losing a limb. "Oh." Reyes took a seat without being told. "So, this is the first ever summit of Class 5 Deathworld species, and not a single snack tray in sight. Tragic." No one laughed. Not yet, but some of the tension cracked. As the Deathworlders settled in, the station trembled slightly, an unnatural vibration. Reyes looked up. The others felt it too. A second later, alarms chirped quietly in the ceiling panels. Not the blaring, panicked klaxon of total failure. This was something subtler. Contained. Almost deliberate. Jilka's gel regulator whined. Something was wrong. The lights flickered. A second tremor hit, sharper this time. Station Helix 9 was built to withstand orbital bombardment. Shakes like that didn't happen by accident. "System breach," murmured one of the Valkyrian guards. Its voice was filtered through a rasping translator. "Internal sabotage." The Gravner rose, massive and hulking. "Who dares threaten this council?" Another light flicker. Jilka's display panel showed a fire suppression system in the lower cargo hold activating, then disabling itself mid-cycle. Gas plumes vented to nowhere. Someone was trying to make it look like the Deathworlders were attacking each other. A setup. Reyes stood calmly and sipped from his thermos again. "Well, isn't that cute?" He placed the thermos down and tapped his wrist pad. Reyes to auxiliary command. "Lock down all main junctions and reroute power from non-essential sectors. I want thermal scans across the maintenance shafts and a map of recent command overrides. Priority red. You have auxiliary access?" Jilka blinked. "I have a knack for emergencies," he said, with just enough edge to make her wonder how many bodies that phrase covered. Kriktich leaned forward, its claws twitching. "Who benefits from this failure?" "Not us," Reyes said. "And not you. But I can think of a few species who would sleep better if the scariest beings in the galaxy turn on each other before we turn our eyes outward." A slow, weighty silence filled the chamber. It was then Jilka realized something deeply, fundamentally unsettling. These beings, these Deathworlders, weren't angry yet. They were thinking, calculating. For them, Restraint was not weakness. It was strategy. That terrified her more than violence. The human factor. The emergency lighting bathed the station's hallways in dim orange pulses. The regular hum of environmental systems was gone, replaced with the low, anxious breathing of walls not meant to go silent. Jilka stayed close to the human. She told herself it was pragmatic. Reyes knew where he was going and clearly had override access, but truthfully, it was the way he moved. Casual but alert, like a predator walking through tall grass. Not hunting, not yet, but capable, always capable. Who gave you that clearance? She asked, her voice low. Didn't need to ask. Station Helix 9 was built with Terran hardware. Some of the back doors were never closed. That's a violation of 22 interstellar security protocols. Reyes stopped, turned. His eyes were calm but sharp. Lady, we built a spacefaring civilization on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Weather, predators, disease, each other. Rules are nice, but survival doesn't follow protocols. He turned back and continued walking. She didn't argue. In the surveillance center, 3 Valkyrian techs lay unconscious, their chitin scarred by focused energy bursts. Reyes knelt beside one, stunned, not killed. Why? Jilka asked. Because the real target wasn't them. It was us. He tapped the control panel. A 3D map of the station flickered into view. One quadrant flashed red. Oxygen scrubbers disabled, hull vents partially open. A few corridors pulsed with heat signatures. Fast, erratic. Saboteurs still aboard. He looked up. That section houses the Gravner envoy's quarters. Jilka blinked. They're trying to start a war. No, Reyes said, standing. They're trying to justify one. They moved quickly, Reyes leading with a shockingly fluid gait for someone with lower gravity training. He scaled ladders and dropped down maintenance shafts like he was born to them. At one point, a flare ignited in a side corridor, noxious smoke rolling out. Jilka stumbled, her rebreather screeching. Reyes simply wrapped a scarf around his mouth and charged into the fire. Seconds later, he emerged dragging a Gravner cub. Young, barely armored, choking but alive. He handed the cub to a gasping aide and turned back toward the flames. You going in again? Jilka coughed. There could be more. Do you have no fear? Reyes paused. Then, quietly, I do. I just don't let it decide for me. When the fires were contained, the envoys gathered again in the conference chamber, damaged, dimly lit, but intact. Urag spoke first. My kin were targeted. My offspring nearly killed. Crick-Th clacked its mandibles. This was not done by any of us. Jilka looked at Reyes. We agree. The humans uncovered a trace signal embedded in the override commands. Not from Deathworld tech. Reyes tapped a hologram. An alien glyph spun in the air, familiar to all. The Drelm Consortium, he said. One of the softest, richest species in the galaxy. Built on influence, cowardice, and control. They fear what they can't predict. And right now, that's us. Urag growled low. Cowards poking beasts in cages. No, Reyes said. They're not stupid. They're desperate. He stepped forward, looking at each envoy in turn. You think they fear your claws, your strength, your toxins? They don't. They fear that you might stop tearing each other apart. That you might stop being monsters in the dark and become something worse. What is worse? Crick-Th asked, tilting its gleaming head. Reyes smiled, but it was not warm. United. Later, alone in her quarters, Jilka recorded a private message to her homeworld. The humans are not what we expected. Their world forged them in fire. But what frightens me is not their violence. It is their restraint. The way they walk through danger like it's routine. The way they think. Reyes did not scream. He did not rage. He saved children from fire and dismantled sabotage networks with the calm of a weathered stormwalker. If we must choose sides in this rising divide, I suggest we choose the ones who've already lived through apocalypse and built cities on its ashes. She hesitated, then added, They call themselves human. But after today, I am not certain what that word truly means. Predators united. The meeting chamber was darker now, lit only by the glow of emergency lights and the slow rotation of a dying star beyond the station's glass wall. The galaxy spun on, uncaring. Inside, however, something was changing. Trust is a luxury, Ambassador Urag rumbled, its voice like shifting tectonic plates. But so is survival. If we are being hunted, we must begin to hunt back. Silence followed, until the human chuckled. Couldn't have said it better myself, Reyes said, lounging with one boot up on the table. His face was bruised, a line of dried blood beneath his right eye. He hadn't slept in 36 hours. He didn't seem to care. Crick TH's claws twitched. And what do you propose, human? A strike? War? Reyes shook his head. No, that's what they expect from us. The violent path. The primal answer. He stood slowly, and this time, no one doubted his authority. We don't win by proving their fears right. We win by showing them we're not just monsters, they're outdated. If they fear our chaos, then we show them our control. If they want to divide us, then we become indivisible. Jilka's voice was cautious. You suggest unity? Between species whose only common trait is surviving catastrophe. Exactly, Reyes said. We were forged in pain. Doesn't mean we have to be ruled by it. They met later in a private chamber, away from the surveillance of soft species tech. Just four of them, Reyes, Urag, Kriktach, and a newly arrived Deathworlder, Jinyov Polker, 6, whose world had oceans of liquid methane and winds that flayed steel. Jinya was tall, slender, wrapped in insulated armor, her breath visible in bursts of freezing vapor. Her voice was melodic, but carried weight. I've read the data, she said. The sabotage was meant to trigger automated defense protocols. One Deathworlder fires back. The station's AI escalates, and suddenly we're all in a kill box of our own making. Crick TH hissed, and the Drelm would mourn. Publicly, while privately celebrating that we were erased. Reyes leaned forward. Unless we do something no one expects. Jinyak tilted her head. Such as, strike with transparency. Infiltrate their hub, pull the logs, extract evidence, and blast it on every known frequency. Not just an act of survival, but exposure. Shame. Proof. Uraga's voice was skeptical. You want to humiliate them? I want to dismantle the game board, Reyes said. Make sure they never get to use us as pieces again. Planning began. Species that had once viewed each other as existential threats now swapped data packets and infiltration tactics. Each Deathworlder brought something to the table. Jinya offered stealth. Her people could survive in hostile voids without life support, slipping into places others could not follow. Crick TH brought knowledge of chemical warfare and cloaked tracking spores. Urag volunteered his offspring, Gravner youths trained not only in combat, but encryption and code-breaking for birth. And the humans? Reyes smirked as he dropped a hard drive onto the table. We bring the dirt, he said. Surveillance files from over a decade. Drelm's secret arms trades, soft power corruption, and just enough scandal to make their allies very uncomfortable. Jinya looked at him, eyes gleaming like icy moons. You prepared for this long before the summit. He didn't deny it. You really believe we can work together? She asked. Reyes met her gaze. I don't believe it. I need it. Because if we don't, next time it won't be a station that burns. It'll be a planet. That night, as the infiltration team prepared, Jilka found herself alone with Reyes once more. I don't understand, she admitted. Why do you care so much about this alliance? Reyes didn't answer immediately. He just stared out the viewport at the swirling blackness of space. My brother died on Earth during the Tempest fires, he said softly. Climate collapse, mass storms. We begged the Council for aid. They sent policy memos. Jilka looked down. She had heard of the event. Most Glintari had filed it under internal planetary failure. He burned, Reyes whispered, helping evac a children's hospital. You want to know why I care? Because no one came for us. We survived anyway. And now I see others like us, different shapes, different poisons, but the same damn will to live. He turned toward her. His voice was calm, but laced with steel. I won't let them bury us again. Not humans. Not Velkarians. Not Gravner. Not any species the stars tried to kill and failed. She didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. Fear the gentle ones. They arrived without warning. Not in warships, not in brute force dropships. Just silence, and then signal. 192 star systems received the same encrypted transmission within the same minute. Footage, proof, audio recordings, intercepted messages, falsified command overrides. Communications from Dreln High Command outlining their strategy. Destabilize the Deathworld Summit. Incite internal chaos. Prevent interspecies unity at any cost. The video feed showed the sabotage in real time. The gas leaks. The engineered malfunctions. The near death of the Gravner cub. And then it showed the Deathworlders saving each other. A Gravner shielding a Valkyrian diplomat from a collapsing beam. A human dragging two enemies-turned allies through fire. A Polkarin slicing through an escape hatch with cryoblades to free pinned workers. And finally, a closing line recorded directly from Captain Reyes's private log. They called us monsters. They feared our worlds, our instincts, our blood. But they never feared what they should have. That we could choose not to kill. That we could choose each other. The galaxy watched and trembled. The Dreln Consortium fell within 9 days. Not to war, but to exposure. Their allies, nations of comfort and wealth, turned on them in embarrassment and panic. Trade embargoes, political denouncements, extradition treaties. No one wanted to be seen siding against the Deathworlders now. Especially not after the footage of Jinyao walking through a hull breach in full vacuum to rescue a drifting Glintari scout. Especially not after Reyes took the stage at the Galactic Union and said, "We didn't come here to burn down your halls. We came here to build our own." Jill Ka stood at the edge of the newly consecrated Hall of the Accord, built on neutral ground between Deathworld territories. Transparent panels showed a view of 3 suns converging over a mineral-rich moon. The symbolism was unsubtle and perfect. She stood with Reyes. "You've changed them," she said softly. "No," he replied, shaking his head. "We did. All of us. Together." She studied his face. Not young. Not old. Worn. Steeled. Human. "There are still species who fear you," she said. He smiled faintly. "Good." She blinked. "You want them to fear you? I want them to respect what we chose. That we could have burned it all down. And we didn't." He turned toward her, expression harder now. "They called us savages. Survivors. Killers. And you know what? They were right. About all of it. But what they never understood, what they still don't, is that the most dangerous beings in the galaxy are the ones who survived hell and still learn mercy." Jill Ka felt her breath catch. Not out of fear, but something close to reverence. "They called us Deathworlders like it was an insult," Reyes said. "Let it be a warning instead." The hall filled with others, Crick TH in ceremonial armor, Urag draped in redstone chains, Jinya haloed in frostlight. Each had brought not weapons, but scholars, engineers, envoys, and children. Deathworlder children played at their feet, some with too many eyes, some with armored hides or breath that misted the air. But they laughed the same. They learned the same. Jill Ka saw Reyes watching them, his expression unreadable. "You're thinking of your brother again, aren't you?" she asked gently. He didn't look away. "Yeah." She waited. He finally said, "He died thinking the galaxy would always look the other way, that we were alone. He was wrong. It just took time." Jill Ka touched his shoulder. "This place is proof of that." As the summit began, and as species once thought ungovernable sat together without violence, Reyes took the podium. He didn't speak with fire or fury. He spoke like a soldier laying down a burden. "We were born in storms, on fire-choked worlds, in gravity that crushed bones, in air that burned lungs. And we endured, not because we were stronger, though we are, not because we were more cunning, though we can be, but because, when the worst came, we reached for each other. That is our weapon. That is our peace. And from this day forward, may the galaxy remember. Fear not the ones who crawl from death. Fear the ones who crawl from death and offer a hand instead of a blade." The room stood silent. And then, one by one, even the most fragile of species stood. Not in fear, but in respect.